Good evening, Gills fans, and welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Monday review, and I am looking back at Saturday's 1-1 draw at home to Rochdale. Unfortunately, going to be talking about the man in the middle again, rather than the game itself, and what can only be described as thuggery from the away team. I come out of the ground with Boz and Stocky after the game and was quite angry, frustrated. I did say that I've never really come out of games and feel such, disgust towards away teams and opponents, but I said that I would be quite happy if Rochdale got relegated based on what I'd seen Saturday afternoon, and it's been a couple of days on now, and to be quite honest, I've not changed my mind. I thought they were appalling, not in terms of how they played football or just their approach to the game and I understand that teams, when they're down there and they're trying to battle relegation, and I've said about Gills before that they need to be nastier. But these antics were so far over the line, it was frightening. But unfortunately, they was allowed to get away with it because the referee was an absolute waste of time. I mean, I've seen some shockers down here in terms of League One officials. He took it to a whole new level. His decisions were frankly staggering, and it's not like they were borderline. I mean, there's 3 penalty shouts, there's 3 blatant elbows, there's a horrendous high challenge by Calvin Andrew, and yet from all that they get away with 2 bookings. And like I said on the Matchday Live, the second elbow from Aaron Wilbraham, because he'd done it in the first half, and I said I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he was planted on the floor and I wasn't sure whether he caught Conor Ogilvie accidentally. But the second one, in the second half, you see him look up and then just blatantly swings an arm back and crashes it into the side of Conor Ogilvie's face. And I said at the time, he's been taken off straight away by his manager, which indicates that they knew he was walking a tightrope and they felt they was probably getting away with one in the fact that he'd only got a caution and not a straight red, which is what he deserved. And then, obviously, if you see the second one, you're more inclined to think that the first one was not accidental either. But the one in between from their captain, Ian Henderson, is the worst of the lot for me. It looks like he's had a run-up, and he goes with the point of the elbow, and you don't jump like that. I mean, I've played football at centre-half, and you jump with your arms to get leverage, but you don't lead like that. And that's what Ian Henderson did, straight into the side of Mark Burns' head. Frankly, it was disgusting. But again, a caution seemed to suffice for the man in the middle. Yeah, and then just when you think it couldn't get any worse, Aaron Wilbraham goes off, and Calvin Andrew, who's just another big elbow machine, comes on, and poor old Conor Ogilvie again, who, in fairness, done well to get through 90 minutes in the end because he was the victim of 3 assaults, makes a clearance, and Calvin Andrews, so late it's ridiculous, and he's out of control, he's off the floor, it's knee high. Apparently that's only a yellow card as well, so the referee set a precedent, and for me it was a miracle that no one ended up getting seriously injured in that game because he just allowed too much to go on, and frankly he was shocking, absolutely shocking, and that's being polite. And yeah, it seems that our captain agrees with what our sentiments in the ground were, myself, Boz and Stocky, and that's Max Amar, and this is what he had to say on the matter. That's Max saying, I thought 2 of them should have been red cards, the 2 on Conor, the elbow and the high foot. I couldn't believe how the elbow wasn't a red. It looked naughty for me from where I was, but that might have been the angle. No, Max, it wasn't the angle. They were horrific challenges, all 3 of them. There's no need for it at all. You can tell when players are trying to play the ball because they've got their eyes on the ball, but for 2 of them, for me, the players know what they're doing. That's Ian Henderson's and Aaron Wilbraham's second. They're trying to do our players, and that's not on at all. But I'd imagine the FA won't take any action or anything like that and retrospectively ban players because of the fact that the referee will probably say that he's seen it and acted on it, which is stupid. You could end up with players with broken cheekbones, fractured eye sockets or worse, with challenges like that. Going back years, I remember Gary Mabbott, the Tottenham captain, taking a horrendous elbow off of John Fashanu, and he was never the same after that. He ended up with multiple fractures, I think, and it shouldn't be a case of that a player gets seriously injured before it's looked at. Those players should have been sent off as clear as day, and they weren't, and that has a bearing on the game. And like I say, I understand teams scrapping for their lives and doing all they can to earn points, and the time wasting's, you know, a trivial thing. They do it every week up and down the countryside, but they were just blatantly cheating. And to top it off, the ref in the second half, their player tries to play out from the back, then he dives because he knows he's in trouble and Brandon Allen's closing him down. He then lays on the ball with no attempt to play it, so that's obstruction. So that's offence number 2. He then picks the ball up because he thinks he's won a free kick, so that's offence number 3. Yet astonishingly, Rochdale end up with a free kick after the referees waved play on initially, and Brandon Allen then goes into the book for dissent. And yes, you can say players should keep their mouth shut, but when decisions are constantly that bad and constantly going against you, you can understand why a couple of ours lost their rag a little bit. But in fairness to us, we didn't get involved in too much shenanigans. And we tried to keep playing football the right way and trying to win the football match. We hit the bar. Graham Burke should have scored. Brandon Allen created a couple of chances for himself. He also created one for Graham Burke first half as well. And we were the better side. And I'd have been really, I said on the match day live, if we'd scored a last minute winner, I think it would have been the happiest I'd have been, because they were despicable. There's no other word for it, Rochdale. Absolutely despicable in my eyes. And it's a shame, because I've admired them for a long time. They've got a shoestring budget, and under Keithfield for years they were working miracles and punching above their weight. But I think things started to change a couple of seasons ago when he brought his side down here, and they had a couple of red cards, and they were stonewall red cards. No one could argue, yet he decided to come out and say something in the press about contemplating getting another player or 2 sent off so that the game would be abandoned. And that's coming from a professional football manager. It's absolutely ludicrous. And then the actions of them Saturday, just for me, they just smack of the signs of a desperate club. And yeah, it may be strong to say I hope they go down, but we all have opinions on things, and I hope they get relegated. 3 penalty shouts as well. First one was the other end. It was up near the Brian Moore stand, but Luke O'Neill was adamant that the cross had been charged down with an arm and it had travelled quite a distance, so that's one. The Tom Eaves cross second half is a stonewaller. Their centre-back, you clearly see him leans into it with his hand and pats it down with his arm back to his keeper, and yet astonishingly the referee decides that's not going to be penalised as well. And the third one on Max Amer, who's adamant that he's pulled to the floor, and it does look for all the world like he's going to nod it in at the back post, and then suddenly there's 2 hands on the back of his shirt wrestling to the floor. So every decision seemed to go their way, and it's not sour grapes when, as I say, decisions are blatantly that wrong on a consistent basis. But this referee will probably get away with it, and the linesman will probably get away with it, and they'll be picking up a fee to do it again next week, and they'll probably end up robbing some other poor club. But like I say, we kind of get used to it at League One. The officiating for me has generally got worse and worse over the last few years. But then is it a problem within the game, of the professional game? Because looking at Sky Sports yesterday in the Cardiff-Chelsea game, Cardiff have been absolutely robbed. There's a case for Antonio Rudiger should be sent off. Cardiff are leading the game with 6 minutes to go, and Chelsea's goals allowed to stand, and they've got 2 players miles offside. It's not even close. How the linesman cannot see that and do his job is quite frankly staggering. So it seems to be a bit of an issue in professional football in England at the moment. And like Neil Warnock said, and I thought, considering his reputation, Mr. Warnock, he done really well at the end of the game to just stare down the officials and not actually go over, because you'd be tempted to go over there and commit harry-carry, because the decisions are absolutely shocking. And this is a massive game that could ultimately cost Cardiff their status in the Premier League, hundreds of millions of pounds in revenue if they get relegated. And whether you like them or not as a football club, or you like Neil Warnock, it's quite frankly frightening, the decisions that are being made incorrectly, especially with all the technology in the game. And there's always been a debate about VAR over the last couple of years, and for me it's not being used correctly all the time. But when decisions are blatantly that wrong, surely something's got to be done to just, sure, you can have a word in the referee's earpiece and say, look, you've got it wrong, you've got to overturn it, because you're affecting players' careers, you're affecting managers' jobs. Anyway, gone off on a bit of a tangent there talking about another game, but there does seem to be a massive issue at the moment. But on the bright side, we picked up another point. It's a game we may have lost a few months ago, or last season under Adi Pennock. So again, we were resilient, we got ourselves level, and then we tried to play the right way, and we tried to go on and win the football match. We didn't quite manage it, but 48 points now, currently sit 13th. I would imagine one more winner would be safe as houses. In terms of Luke Cordell's final paragraph of his match report, it ended all square, a result that won't have harmed either side's survival hopes. The Gills moved a little closer to safety, and Rochdale ensured they kept a pace with their rivals. The visitors might have turned the game into a battle, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Thankfully, Gillingham aren't as desperate as their weekend visitors are right now. Agree with some of that, disagree with some of it. Yes, like I've already said, you do all you can to stay in football matches and earn points, but assaulting opposition players is not one for me, but it's done now, we can't change it. And in terms of match ratings, right, I'll do Luke's and then mine. So Thomas Holy, 6, we gave 7. The back four, we gave all 4s. Luke gave 8s to Connor Ogilvie and Max Amar, and 7s for Barry Fuller and Luke O'Neill like we did. He gave Mark Byrne a 7, we gave him a 7.5. We both rated Dean Parrott a 6. Leonardo da Silva Lopez was given 6 by Luke, and we said 6.5. Graham Burke, I thought he was a bit harsh, and he gave 6, we gave 7. Brandon Hanlon, he gave 8, we gave 7.5. And he gave Tommy's a 7 and we gave 6.5, so it's all relative, about half a point out. And he didn't rate the substitutes because they weren't on for long, and I don't think we did either, which was Regan Charles Cook and Josh Reese. He doesn't rate the ref. Oh, he's given the referee a 5. I think that's about 6 too many, in fairness, Luke. But yeah, in terms of shots, 3 on target each. We had 13 off target, they had 7. We had more corners. Brandon Hanlon again, absolutely brilliant. Excuse me, just seems to be getting better with each week that passes, and he causes every team he plays against a threat with his pace and his power, and just a few more goals and we've got one hell of a striker on our hands. But he's been really good for me. I said it last Thursday and I said it on the Matchday Live, he's going to get my vote for Young Player of the Year. I think he's been sensational in his first season at this level, consistently playing a huge number of games. But just before I sign off, to the back page of the Medway Messenger, and the headline, as you can see, is Lovell sets new targets. He's talking about points for the rest of the season. Obviously there's 18 still to play for, and this is what he's saying about that. And this is with regards to the 56 points that we finished on last season in finishing 17th. He says we have a heck of a chance of beating that. We have a chance of doing it against some of the sides who are struggling down the bottom. It would be nice to get to 56 points before the last few games and then try to beat that. If we do, we could end up finishing halfway up the table. I think that's an excellent approach. We know that we've got a lot of players out of contract come the end of the season. We've got people on loan that apparently we're interested in trying to keep for next season, whether that's permanently or another loan spell. I'd imagine the likes of Graham Burke and Leonardo da Silva Lopez would be season-long loans, considering I'd imagine they're on decent wages at their championship clubs. But if we can get them in either way, I think that would be good. And we've seen the positive impact them two have had on the football team so far. We've not seen a lot of Tarvon Campbell or Billy King. Connor Ogilvie obviously has been here all season, and his was extended after Christmas. For me, we do all we can to sign him up. He's been absolutely brilliant since he's been moved to centre-half. I think he's a better centre-half than he is a left-back. I think his lack of pace sometimes leads to him getting caught out at full-back, but him and Max Amar have been absolutely superb as a pairing. And I spoke to someone on Twitter last week and I said, whisper it quietly, I think we've looked a lot stronger with Connor Ogilvie in there instead of Gabriel Zakuani, for 2 reasons. He adds balance because he's left-footed. but mainly because of the fact that we can find different ways to play, because he's a lot more comfortable coming getting the ball to feet. So it means that him or Max will take it off Thomas Holy, or they'll split, which means you drag centre forwards out of position, and then one of the centre midfielders, whether that's a Mark Byrne or a Dean Parrott or a Darren Oldacre or anyone, drops in and they can take possession and get us moving in possession. So all the credit in the world to Connor Ogilvie. If there was an award for most improved player, 100% it'd be me for him. He's been absolutely first class this season, in my opinion, and I hope he continues to go from strength to strength, and I really hope we can keep him on a permanent. Right, that is it from me tonight. Another Monday review where we're unbeaten. We haven't lost on a Saturday now since the 9th of February, so I think that's 7 games, which is brilliant. I'm sure it is, yeah, because we've only lost 2 in 9 and both of them were on a Tuesday. So 7 Saturdays unbeaten. That will be put to the test next week. We go to Peterborough, who are still in with a chance of the playoffs. But they're a funny club, they're inconsistent. But that's enough about that tonight. We'll talk more on Thursday, whether that's myself or on my own or with Boz, I'm not quite sure. And we will preview that game in more detail. But as always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Comment down below on YouTube, keep spreading the word. And until next time, up the Gills.